What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're here, episode 2, Gaming Vets Unplugged. First of all, before we get it kicked off, I want to say thanks to everybody that came and checked out the first episode. Hope you liked it, got to meet us all, enjoyed what we talked about, enjoyed learning a little bit about all of us. And if you couldn't tell from the first episode, man, we had fun, right? So let's just hope that we can carry this momentum forward and keep going. And that's the plan. So today we're back, episode Dose. Dose? Camera. Dose. 2. Dose. So let's kick it off, man. First of all, I just want to say hi, everybody. Hope everybody's had a good week. It's Friday. You guys doing everybody's doing good, yeah?
Yeah.
Doing good.
Good, little drunk.
Good,
had a date night and had a drink for the first time since November and feeling good.
Hey.
Yeah.
So Jose's gonna get asked a lot of questions.
Send it.
The skeletons.
Right? Yeah. Start talking about things in his closet, right? But so all right, man. So I did a little bit of thinking and we're trying to keep this in a smooth progression, right? But we also want to key in on the main topic and the main goal of what our podcast is about. So I thought today, kind of piggybacking off of everybody's story and kind of the introduction, I want to run it back. Okay. We're all a little bit different in age. We have a little bit of different gaming experiences. And so I thought that today, let's talk about where it all started as far as the gaming side, obviously, because the military side comes into it later in life type thing. So we can talk about that later. But where it all started, where did it begin? What was it for you? And you don't have to write these down. Just what was that moment, or what was that game, or what was that console that was like you got for whatever reason, your birthday, for Christmas or something, or you're at a buddy's house, right? You played and you're like, oh man, dude, gaming, that's what's up. Like, I'm trying to be a gamer, right? And I'm not saying that we're all like, phase swags or nothing like that, or any of those guys. We want to dedicate our whole life to gaming, but
if only.
Yeah, right. And get paid for it, right? I mean, I would too. You're right. But I think everybody has those moments, even whether it's sports, whether it's whatever the subject matter is, right? You always have something in your life that makes it significant to you to go, oh yeah, I want to keep doing this, or like I enjoyed this enough to where it becomes a thing or a part of my life. Because like I said, we're all older, we're all adults, and we're all fathers, and we still play video games, right? And people are like, oh, you're so old and you play video games? Like, what do you do with your life? Like everything else and play video games, motherfucker, because that's why. So so yeah, man. So I'm gonna throw it over. We're just gonna randomize it today. There's no particular order we're gonna go. So I'm gonna throw it over to Danny today. He's gonna kick it off. Let's hear your story, man.
Dude. So in the last podcast, we talked about a little bit about ourselves, and I think I remember mentioning that my mother had a Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much how I got interested in it. She had, and it was specifically Star Wars. She had a Star Wars. I don't know. It was a level where it was like the Sand People and stuff, and I couldn't stop playing. She also had Super Mario World, and from there, man, it kind of kicked off. And I would say when I would go to my buddy's house down the street, we went to the same school and everything. He had a little a Game Boy, but it was like the big kind. I don't know if y'all remember, but it was like the big.
Yeah. That the one with like the boxing game on it.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali or something like that.
It was white, something like that, right? It was like white, it's squarish.
Yeah. So he had that, man, and I just couldn't stop. Like he'd wanna go play outside and stuff, and I'd be like, nah, dude, let me chill in here on this couch and just play. And I mean, that's pretty much how it hit it off for me. That's what got me into gaming, pretty much. And then I'd probably say my first official console was the PS2. That was my first official console that I got by myself, right? And I want to say, what game was it? I think Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto was like
classic.
Yeah, classic
Yeah,
Grand Theft Auto.
Metal
Grand Theft
Gear
Auto
Solid.
3. Yeah, man, it was crazy. And I got into Grand Theft Auto from my cousin. My cousin, his name is Francisco, but
Shout
he
out.
is we call him shut up. But we call him Güero. And he would have Vice City. He'd have Vice City, and man, it was just so much fun. That was probably my first big open world video game. What got me into shooters was Halo. So Halo was my first ever game. Halo Combat Evolved. Dude, so this is crazy. So my dad, he didn't know, I don't know. One day he just came to my house and handed me an Xbox. And the game that was already in it or whatever, or the game that came with it was Halo. I would play the shit out of that game.
Yo, I remember those.
Dude, to the point where my buddies in my block, we would all LAN party. Like, we all had an Xbox, dude. And we would just play for hours and hours, and it was just crazy. And I loved it.
Nice.
It was good times, man. It was really good time.
Yeah, so but you mentioned, man, getting the Xbox, right? And that was one thing when you said it, I was just kind of thinking about it. Like, I don't even know if they still do it anymore, because obviously we're all on PC. I know you guys probably you may have a console or whatever, or recently had a console, but do they still do those like theme edition? Probably not as common, I guess, as they used to, right?
Yeah, they still have some.
Yeah.
Xbox
Xbox is Microsoft is very they're very well known to doing that, and it's actually pretty cool. Like the kind of Xbox that they do.
Yeah, like their
It's
Halo.
really nice.
The Halo was the last one.
ones.
Yeah.
I see them every once in a while. I remember walking. You go through the mall, right? And you go to, I guess, what's now GameStop or whatever, and you'd see like the sign, right? And it'd be like a special edition, but it'd have like 12 different variations of an Xbox console for different games. But who wants to jump in next, man? Go for it. Whoever.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
I will. So let's see. I got an older brother, right? So we used to do, before I moved away, right? We did a lot together, whether it be sports or whatnot, but gaming was a big thing we played together. I think our first console was the Super NES, right? With Mario. And then we went to the N64, and then we had the Dreamcast. So like we always played, video games together. If we weren't playing, football or basketball or whatnot. But I think, the one that really got me into gaming more was the Xbox 360. I remember, I think my brother was a senior in high school, and I think I was a freshman at that time. And I didn't have my license yet, but the Xbox 360 was coming out at Best Buy, right? So since I didn't have a job, my brother did, so he couldn't go. But I went to Best Buy, and I waited 16 or 18 hours outside of Best Buy in line, right? Just to get the Xbox 360 with Call of Duty. Like, I think it was like, I don't know if it was the first one, but whatever one came out with the 360 is the first Call of Duty that I really ever played. But, I stayed up all night, in line. It was kind of cold out too, as cold as Florida can get at the time. But, I got home and just in time for my brother to wake up. I was like, no, I'm playing first. I waited out all night. I'm playing first, right? So, hook up my Xbox Live account, all that stuff, play some games. But, I guess before that, when Danny brought up the Halo, we played a lot of that on the Xbox before the 360. But, so we always had the LAN parties. Hours and hours on the weekends, buying Little Caesars when they were actually really only $5, the hot and ready.
Damn,
dude, the Surge, Mountain Dew,
dude.
All that stuff. Just all the boys in the neighborhood. We go out to each other's house. Never my house, because I had the whole family there. But we go to their houses down the street, bring our TV, Xboxes, all that stuff. And, just hours and hours playing that stuff. But yeah, it was like the 360. Got in the car and the first person shooters. I don't know went on after that. Let's see. I'll have to cut this part out, but I mean that's really what got me into it. So got me hooked and played that. Every console that came out after that. I don't know what was after 360. That was out for a while, but
Was it one?
720.
nah, they didn't have the 720. Get out of here.
Stupid.
But but that's when the Xbox when it first came out, a lot of the first gens they had that red ring of death or whatever it was called.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So as kids we used to have my dad call, because he got the fear of death, in his voice, so he call up the company and be like, I'm not paying, for another one. You better send me a free one, fix whatever I got, because as kids we couldn't do that. We're too scared to talk on the phone at that age, But yeah, ever since that, got hooked there and then continued on until obviously I joined and then stopped playing for a little bit. But I stopped playing for a while after I joined, and it wasn't until I think I ended up getting the Xbox One, right? And then I had that and the actual PS2, and I like went over to PlayStation because I had more friends in the military that had PlayStation, so I kind of went with that. And the only reason I got an Xbox because after I moved away, my brother was strictly Xbox, so I would got an Xbox just so I could play games with him when he would play, because gaming's how we always stayed connected, living in different states and whatnot, and then that's how you stay connected nowadays. If you're not, Facebook or anything like that, you got your boys that game, and that's how. I mean, especially me and Donnie, right? Especially when I PCS, that's how Donnie and I talked. I mean, different time zone, everything, playing Call of Duty,
Yeah, bro.
different time zones, whether it be early in the morning for me, late at night for him.
The invention of Discord is a godsend for
Game
friendships, man.
game chat is trash.
Yeah, like
So Discord
Yeah.
was, but that's
Long
where
distance
that's what even where in Germany is when I got my PC. Donnie got his PC when I was in Germany. We're trying to figure it out together. I don't know shit about PCs, so my brother's a PC guru. So I'm like, yo, Jamie, what do I build it? So I send him the link. He picks out what I should do. I was like, this is what I want to spend. He's like, all right, get this, get that. He's like, no, you don't need that. And I was like, okay, well now I get it. Now what do I do? So he's the one walking me through it and hooking me up and telling me the ins and outs of it. So it's all downhill from there. And here we are now.
for sure.
That's awesome.
Jose, what you got, bro? Let's hear your story.
Well, man, so I got into gaming back when I was about 6 or 7. So my first console was a Nintendo 64, but before that, I used to play the Super Nintendo. So I used to go to like old friends' houses from church, and they would have like Super Mario or not. So I used to always think that was like so cool, and I'd be like, "Damn, these people are rich because they have consoles." And I said I think it was like 6 or 7 for Christmas. I get a Nintendo 64, and my first game was Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And still to this day, man, that's like one of my favorite games. I'm actually thinking about actually playing that again for one of my streams. But when I got it again, I was like 6 or 7. And I remember I was stuck, man. Like I could not figure it out. I think I only made it to the tree. I beat the tree, and then after that, I couldn't figure it out. And I think I was stuck there for like 4 years. I was stuck there for like 4 years, man, because I was like 6 or 7. And then shit happened with the family, with my parents and whatnot. And then I started playing again at that time. And then after that, I had finally beat it. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt so accomplished because I was like, I finally beat this game. It took me like 4 years, but I got it. And then after that, the PlayStation came out. So one of my uncles was always all about consoles and whatnot. Daniel actually knows him. We went to his house a few times in Forney when we used to go to the pool. So he was always about buying the newest consoles and whatnot. So when he'll buy the new one, he'll give me his oldest one. So when he bought the PS2, I got his old PlayStation. And they used to give me the demo disc, and I always thought like, oh shit, this is cool. Like I have all these fucking games. Like I didn't know it was a fucking demo. And then eventually, I think my first console that I bought was the PS3, I think. I bought that one. I played. And then same thing. I joined the military. I would still continue to play here and there, but not as often. And then I kind of just fell off. And I know Daniel and RC used to continue to play. And eventually I just came back on. And then PS4 came out. I would continue to play and whatnot. So that's basically how I got on. And the same thing, man. Like Brian's bringing up the Pizza Hut, $5 pizzas, man. We used to do that all the time too in high school. We would all be like, "Hey, man, we're going to such and such house. Make sure you have your $5." So we all would get our own boxes, being fucking fat asses, man.
Dude.
Our own box
Dude.
and our own 2-liter like Mountain Dew or something.
Oh, dude, so they'd have right down the street where our city was so small, dude, that we would go walk to a Chicken Express, and they would have gallons, dude. They would have gallons of tea.
Of diabetes.
Each one of us, dude, hella diabetes because there was hella sugar in it, and each one of us, there was like probably
fucking get like
there'd
6
be
of us,
times-
man.
Yeah, there'd be 6 of us, and each one of us would have a gallon of fucking tea, just downing it with fucking pizza of Little Caesars, dude.
Yeah, Little
That's
Caesars,
crazy.
man. So we would do that, and then I think we had like 2 or 3 LAN parties, and we didn't do them too
Yeah.
often because somehow we were always missing a piece, and not everybody would drive. So I know
Yeah.
the first time we
Yeah.
did the LAN party, I think it took us like 2 or 3 hours because at the time Archie used to live in an apartment. And he was closest to the Walmart that we had in the little small town there in Sigleville where we went to school. So I think it
And
took us about what, an hour?
Yeah, dude. Close as that is a understatement. Like,
Yeah,
it
no,
wasn't.
Old school.
It
seems
seemed close,
right? Yeah.
Dude, it seems close, right? It seemed close,
'Cause
but
you
it
got
was
used to
fucking
it.
far.
Yeah,
As far
Yeah.
as shit, man. We were looking at maybe like 5,
Yeah.
6 miles. And we're
Yeah,
like, well,
dude.
shit, nobody has a car. And the
Yeah.
person who did have a car like wasn't there. So we went to Walmart because we didn't have an Ethernet. So we went to Walmart, bought the Ethernet. Then we were like, well, shit, now we're hungry. Let's go ahead and get this pizza. So we got the pizzas and started walking back. So by the time everything was done, we started playing. I think we only played for like an hour or 2. And they were like, that's it, because we were all just fucking tired.
Yeah,
So yeah, man. And then after that, like I said, PS3, PS4. And then Daniel ended up joining the military after I did. And then he was stationed in Vegas, and then that's how we would play too, man. I feel like Daniel is definitely one of the persons who I've stayed in touch with the most, just because the same thing virtually, and of course, like RC, because the same thing. It was always myself, Daniel, and RC always playing online, playing some kind of Call of Duty game, something, and it was always RC getting mad for whatever reason. You have to play with RC specifically, like zombies, how he gets and whatnot. So that's one thing that I really enjoyed. So like. It's like we'll give RC shit, but like in a good way. Like we knew not to cross the line because sometimes he will get too mad. So we're like, all right, let's just go ahead and stop there. so yeah, man, that's basically it. And then now I think we all build our own PCs now. So same thing. I just switched to PC back in October, November, and yeah, man. So ever since then, and like now with us here, it's like we're not all in the same city, and the same thing. Thanks to Discord. Discord chat's a lot better. So look here, your open party chat, man. It's kind of garbage. No, you can't do this, man.
Wow.
He's not wrong, dude. Open chat,
I mean,
open
but
party chat is
we do that with
terrible.
anybody that's like, even if they have a PC and they're like, we bring another buddy in to play with us, right? We're like, hey, you got Discord? They're like, no. Like, all right, we'll download it.
Download it.
We don't
We
talk
talking on
we don't
game
talk
chat,
on game
cuz
chat.
like, nah, it's terrible. It really is.
Yeah. Well, even like when we had AJ
Yeah.
play with us one time, right?
Yeah.
We had to have him get it on his phone, link it to his PlayStation, so he could hook up because we don't talk in game chat. It's not the way to go anymore.
No, man,
Yeah.
it's frowned upon.
Videos on how to do it, all that kind of shit, man.
I would say it is a lot easier now to hook up your Discord on
Yeah.
PlayStation to what it was when it first came out. Because I know when it first came out,
It was complicated.
it was complicated. And RC would always be like, "How do I do this again?"
Yeah.
I'd be like, "God damn it!"
Well,
Here you are trying to like.
Yeah, we didn't even know how. We'd be like, yo, you're gonna have to YouTube it because we don't know how, but
Yeah,
you
exactly.
need to do it.
Even when I played with you, Brian and Donnie, like when I was playing on the PS5.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Dude,
I remember.
there'd be times where it would just kick me out of the Discord. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
It's so much better now though because Discord,
Yeah.
is smart. Obviously, because they're trying to make
Yeah.
money, right? So now they partner with every type of gaming possible, right?
Yeah.
Everybody who plays a video game on some kind of network connection can use Discord on their console now too. It's crazy like how it works, but evolution of technology. So All right, so it's time for my story. So I'm sitting here and I'm listening to all three of you guys' stories, and I'm like, just like, God damn, I'm fucking old, bro. Like, what? Like, that's your first console, and that's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's your first game. So, all right, so I'll give you a little bit of backstory. Okay, I do that all the time, don't I? A little bit of backstory.
Yeah, you say
It means
little, but
that's
it's
my
a little
K.
long-winded.
First of all, that's my intro to let everybody know that's listening. Is I'm about to talk for a fucking hot minute, so grab a coffee and get comfortable because
Get your snacks.
because a little bit of backstory means about 10-15 minutes before I actually answer the question. But no, so I was you guys were talking about some stuff and I was trying to think, right? Like growing up, I grew up obviously like in the 80s and in the 90s. And I came from a family, so my dad is a Marine, right? So I was a dependent. Obviously, as a child, I didn't really like live in one place. As a Marine, they travel a lot more than us cats in the Air Force do, right? Especially back in those days. It was 2, maybe 3 years. Like a 3-year tour was an extended long tour back in the day, right?
Oh,
So, like to prime example, right? So I like I said, I was born in 84. My brother's born in 89, right? Between 84 and 89, I've been to 3 different countries already,
shit.
right? So I was born in the Philippines, been to the States, and then we were in Scotland, which is where my younger brother was born at in 1989. If you guys don't know that story, we'll have my brother on as a guest one day because he games too and whatever, and he can tell you his cool story about being born in Scotland. But so anyways, man, so yeah, 1989, we're in Scotland or whatever. So here's the deal. Like I said, I was born October of 84. If you want to look it up, you don't have to because I'm about to give you the facts and you can fact check if you want, but I promise you it's right. Almost a year later to the day, the original Nintendo was introduced to the world. Okay. It was October of 85. The Nintendo was introduced. So I was obviously about to turn a year old. I think it was like 3 days or 4 days before my birthday. I don't remember that. I'm just saying I know that as fact, right? So growing up, my dad wasn't really into gaming, obviously, because back in those days, gaming wasn't really that big, right? I mean, some people, it was very selective type.
They had the Atari.
Right? Yeah, no. So that's what I'm saying, right? Like gaming was a very small selection of people back in the day in the 80s.
It was a cult, man, back in the day.
Exactly. It wasn't like worldwide popular. It wasn't like international gaming conventions going on. You know, you couldn't drive down the street and go to Gamers Con or something like that, or something similar. It was just, you heard about people who played video games on something and you're like, what? So, but with that, my dad being in the military, they sell a lot of stuff at the BX, especially overseas, right? It's like going to Walmart. You get everything in the BX overseas or the exchange or whatever. And if I remember correctly, my dad had an Atari, never fucking used it. I don't really know why he had it, but so
the thing to have.
Yeah, it's probably, that's kind of what it is, right? So that was kind of my first experience with any type of gaming. In that was a little fucking, it was a black paddle or like a square box with one little joystick, right, and a fucking button on the little side, and you played it like this, bro, like, you know what I mean? And it was modular movements. It was like up and down, left and right. You know what I'm saying? That's
you might need that for COD, man.
Yeah, bro. That's why. Why do you think I suck at mouse and keyboard? Like, come on. So I like messed around with it once or twice or whatever, but I think my real gaming of any type of experience was actually with a Game Boy, like an OG Game Boy. Like this motherfucker was probably that big, you know what I mean? Like weighed 25 pounds in your hand and had a screen that was like 1/10 of it. And it was like that dirty, like black and white, looks like the old Nokia phones where you used to play Snake on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was it. And it was Tetris, right? Straight up. Like Tetris. Like my mom actually, she liked playing Tetris, right? And I think that's probably the only game that we had. And I think we got that for traveling because we traveled a lot and wanted something to do while we traveled. But I don't know if you guys are old enough, okay? But they used to sell these little things for like $10-15, and they were like one game little gamer pad things. They were super small. They had little bitty screens, and they had like the plus, the D-pad, and then the 2 buttons, right? And it was like you could buy like Mortal Kombat, but it was in like 1 and 1.5 dimensions. Like it was so terrible, right? But you could buy these things at like Walmart and shit for traveling, and they were cool, like little travel things, right? So honestly, my real gaming experience comes from that. Is my dad would buy those little cheap ones because didn't want to buy a console for whatever reason, or whatever the big gaming thing was at the time, and we'd have these little travel fucking games, right, and just play those. And I'm sure my brother can attest to it too. Like, he probably remembers some of those vaguely, but that's all I had as a kid, man. And then eventually I got a Nintendo, and I played Super Mario, and I think the only 2 games I had was like Super Mario Brothers and Zelda, right? And let me tell you what, okay, if you ever go back and play the original Zelda, that was the most complicated fucking game in the world. That game, bro, never ending, could never figure out how to play it. Like, I hated Zelda. Everybody's like, oh, I love Zelda, blah, blah, blah. It's so nostalgic. It brings back memories. Like, my memories of Zelda were like, I hate this fucking game. Like, this game is so stupid. Like, what are all these dumb things you gotta do, right? Like, like I want to run and jump and do things like that. So Super Mario was a good thing for me. And then like 1, 2, 3, right, came out or whatever, or however many it was. I eventually got a Super Nintendo. I think I got it for my birthday, like the year it came out or the year after it came out. Don't ask me what fucking age that was, because I have no clue. Because I have a bad memory. So let's caveat that I'm old and I have a bad memory. So I don't know exactly like you guys do. So my story is a little different. But I do remember getting a Super Nintendo. And I think the first game I had on Super Nintendo was Super Mario Brothers 3, where you could get, like, Mario would get upgraded and he'd shoot the fireballs and shit. Like, that was the coolest thing to me ever. I was like, oh, I can shoot fireballs at turtles. Like, oh, this is fucking dope, right? Like, that was the fucking big thing back then. You know what I mean? So, but honestly, like, to say all that, right, is like, I was never like super into gaming. I just would game like when I didn't have anything to do. If I wasn't playing soccer, baseball, basketball, football, whatever, like as a like team sport or whatever, like in the community or at school, like, I didn't really play video games. But we always had a console of some sort. My dad was always cool about it. Like, hey, I know kids are into this, like, so we have one. But I think my favorite, my fondest memory is I was in Japan in the end of elementary school. It's like 90. So I was in Japan the first time, 92 to 95. And we had a Sega Genesis. Okay.
Oh man, this is awesome.
And yeah, so I don't know if you know Sega Genesis, right? But you had this fucking little square thing, because the fucking shit would never load. You gotta blow in that shit and clean it out.
You
Take
had
a
to do that on
Q-tip.
all the consoles,
Dude,
even like
bro.
Nintendo.
Bro, Nintendo. Yeah, I remember original Nintendo, bro. You take that
Nintendo
fucking
64
square out, like the OG Nintendo, bro, and you put that shit in your mouth and you'd be like, and just blow. And like it'd take like 12 times before the shit would load. You slam the stupid little flip open door closed hard as fuck because you're mad.
And mad by that point.
Yeah, like slap the top of it and shit. Like, you couldn't break those things for nothing, bro. But I remember my I guess my oldest and like most annoying, other than Zelda, just because I didn't like the game, was I had actually got into Contra. Like, I played Sonic, and I think Contra became one of my favorite games, Metroid or something like that on Sega. But I remember specifically Contra because my best friend, so we lived in these towers in Japan. I don't know if you guys have ever seen them, but military housing, they're like towers. There's essentially 9 apartments and 9 floors, right? So I lived on the 6th floor, and my buddy lived on the 9th floor of the same building. And he would come down and we would play Sega, and we play Contra. And Contra was just a 2-person left to right shooter game where you could jump up and down and you had to go this way the whole fucking time and shoot, right? Well, you get to the end of Contra, bro, and there's this boss that's like you can't beat him. Like, I remember
You would go that way instead of this way.
bro. Whatever. I remember specifically playing the boss fight for like over an hour, and me and him were just like shooting, and nothing just never fucking dies, right? I'm just like, oh my god, this shit's so dumb. So, so that was like my biggest memory where where gaming just kind of like took hold for a little bit, and we played a lot. We actually played Contra a lot, so I enjoyed that. And then eventually, like you guys said, I got a Nintendo 64. The only game I ever liked on a Nintendo 64 was fucking Mario Kart and GoldenEye when that came out. And then I think eventually I never had like a Gamecast or whatever, that Dreamcast or whatever that was.
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast. And then there's a couple other ones.
GameCube, you talk about?
Yeah,
Just combine them together.
Yeah, whatever, bro. GameCube, whatever, right? Because I was like, especially in my high school, I don't think I played video games hardly ever because I was just so much sports going on, and I was trying to get recruited to play soccer in college and all this kind of stuff. So I never really played video games then. But fast forward to joining the military, a couple years go by or whatever, and I don't know. I just get like the PS whatever at the time, right, was coming out brand new, and it was everybody was talking about it. Yo, you got to get this, blah blah blah. And I don't know why I did. Probably because I was just a dumb airman, didn't want to know how to save my money, and just like, yeah, I'll get one of those. Fuck it, I make good money. I'll get one, whatever. So I buy one, and then kind of start getting into games a little bit. But honestly, man, my biggest jump into gaming was because of Brian. Really, was the
Black Ops.
Black Ops. Black Ops, what, 2, 3?
I think it was 2.
Yeah, 2. That was my first like real experience with like open world whatever concept, or battle royale type concept gaming, like where you play online against other players and stuff like that. Like I never did those LAN party things or whatever. For a long time I didn't even know what the fuck they were. I didn't even know you could do that. Like you guys could, you can hook up 2 consoles together and play together. Oh, that's cool. I thought you just had to buy a 2-player game in order for you to play together and split a fucking screen 50-50 so you can't see shit. You know what I mean? But so I didn't really get back into like actually gaming and wanting to play video games until that time. And we started playing regularly, man. And like I said, it just kind of progressed from there. I kind of piggyback off of what Brian said. We had during Warzone, that was Warzone 1, right? OG Warzone, Verdansk.
Yeah.
So like Brian said, his brother, so Jay's like a year younger than me, right? And but he's very computer savvy or whatever. And we had talked about upgrading into PCs. I don't remember why. We were frustrated with PlayStation for something or whatever.
It's probably during the time that they were like having issues with the PlayStation network.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, maybe, but I think we just always wanted to get a PC because you got the better FOV.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, right?
I think that's what it was.
The introduction of like, field of view and like getting a better gaming experience. And then like we started watching some streamers and like, damn, dude, that shit looks so nice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about it and we're like, dude, let's do it, right? So we got our pre-built PCs through CyberPower, and I remember sitting there and we're all on Discord, all 3 of us talking, or no, we were talking about somehow. Was it Discord game chat, something? But we're all talking about it, trying to figure out how to build these PCs, and Jay's helping us freaking figure out like what we should get and would be good. And we're texting back and forth like, yo, is this a good processor? Is this a good graphics card? And Jay's like, oh no, you should get this one because you paid $200 less, but you get 3,000 more, blah, blah. And I'm just like, is it good? Yes or no? Like, just tell me to buy it. So that's kind of my experience, man. Mine's like I said, it's a lot different listening to you guys because I didn't really have buddies who gamed like that. Like everybody had a gaming console back in the 80s, I think. Not everybody. Let me. In the military, right? Everybody had, that I knew at least, had some type of gaming device, whether it was like a Game Boy or one of those little handheld devices, or maybe even a console, right? But you got to think about it. In the late 80s, early 90s, you're taking those 3 stupid cords, the yellow, red, and the white one. If you guys know what those are, those are audio video cords. You know what I mean? Right? So,
yes.
Okay. Left and right. Audio, hey, that a boy, Danny.
I know.
Left and right in the video. So, and you plug that into a rear projection TV, which TVs nowadays are just fucking big. TVs in the fucking 80s were like this big, 12 inches, bro. This is how big your TV was. Then this is front to back. That's not even the screen. That's just the front to back. You know what I mean? So TVs weighed 200 fucking pounds back in the day, and they weren't bigger than your monitor that you have on your desk now. So hooking up your console back in the day was a chore because you had to move that heavy ass TV around, try to spin it around. Fucking reach back in there and plug this shit in, you know what I mean? And then work the cord all the way around to the front so you could play. And then the screens back in the day were bubbled instead of flat. So like, dude, it's crazy as I'm talking about it to think of the progression of technology, like how much better everything is now and how improved it is.
I remember when I had my 64, my TV didn't have the three adapters, so I had to buy that specific adapter to my 64 that was like, it had like a little box and it had a cable that I just connected to the back of the TV.
So that's funny you say that because you think about it, right? Like I come from a time where, like Brian said that he'd stood out 18 hours for some console, right? Like I remember when people were doing that because a new type of TV was coming out, right? So if you had an old enough TV and a new enough console, you had to make a decision. Either you sell the console because you can't play it because your TV doesn't support it, or you spring for a fucking new TV, and that costs way too much back in the day. Like the flat screen TV,
Yeah, dude.
even the big screens. Like, yo, I remember I had a big screen. You guys remember like actual big screens? Not like now, obviously, but these are big screens that sat on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Had the big fucking speaker box on the bottom, and the TV was built into the top, and the thing was like
fucking huge, man.
Yeah, bro, it's bigger than your couch. Like you had to have
like
5
fucking
people
100
move your
inches.
TV.
Yeah.
Like, and you'd be in the store like, do I want a big screen TV? Do I have enough friends that can come over and help me move this motherfucker in my house? Right? Like, bro, I bought my first big screen TV after I got married. We had bought like our first big screen TV. I thought I was a shit. Fucking big screen TV cost $1,000, right? And I was like, what am I doing? It's an E4, spending $1,000 on a fucking TV. And but I did it, because I thought I was cool. And then I had that thing until the wheels fell off. Literally, people were buying flat screens around me and shit. And I'm like, nah, bro, about this big screen TV, I ain't get rid of this thing. And then I finally, like I said, I think I bought like a PlayStation 4. And it didn't have the right plugs to plug into the back of my TV. And I was like, fuck, man, I gotta get a different TV. Damn it. Like so I challenge anybody.
There you go. Here goes the big ass TV.
I had a TV in silver, bro. Like that's my TV in silver. That might be my living room couch too. Like it looks like my house.
Those things are fucking ridiculous, man.
Bro, legit, right?
Yeah, I legit. You were explaining it, but I didn't really remember it until Jose popped up.
Dude. Yeah, dude.
Flashbacks.
Huge.
And so for people that are watching, obviously on Spotify, you guys can't hear. So sorry. So just look up, 90s big screen TV, and you'll see what we're talking about. But for those of you that are watching on YouTube right now, if you see that, right, like look at that thing. That thing is literally almost 5 feet tall.
That shit was huge, man.
Those are 12-inch speakers on the bottom. And that's 1.2 surround sound, not 7.1 surround sound. You know what I mean? Like that's all front mono audio, left and right type shit. You know what I mean? And then for reference, right, the refresh rate on that is like 5.5 hours. The resolution is about -10. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, like that's crazy, right? Like I thought as a kid, man, if you
had one of those, you were rich,
bro.
man.
If you had one of those, bro, your parents drove a Porsche and you had a house the size of a mansion, bro. Like big screen TVs were so rare to see growing up, and I was just like, oh my god, my dad would never buy a big screen TV, bro. Never. I could never get him to buy him one. He's like, nah, we don't need no big screen TV. Yeah, we need a big screen TV. He's like, you spend all day outside. What the hell you need a big screen TV for? And that's kind of what it was, right? Like. I come from the generation that literally was outside more than they were inside. You were only inside to sleep and eat back in those days. You get home, you go outside. You don't come back until either your mom says she's going to whoop your ass or the street lights come on, right? Like,
you hear the whistle from the front doorstep.
Yeah, the whistle.
Yeah, right. Or if your dad could whistle across the neighborhood, everybody knew too, right?
Shit.
Everybody's dad could whistle, but everybody knew. Oh shit, that's my dad.
Like,
I gotta
that's
go.
my dad.
Yeah,
that's my
dad. I
dad's
gotta
whistle.
go. How do you know? Just because you can tell from the tone, like it sounds like a whistle, but you just know it's like an instinctively thing, right? But yeah. So let's talk about that. What are your guys's experiences outside of the whole gaming thing, right? Like, how did you, or what was it for you outside of gaming, right? Because we don't want to, obviously it's a gaming channel, right? But let's talk about some of the things that we do outside of gaming as well. Kind of, get to know things like growing up. What was your favorite thing to do as a kid, whether it be sports, whatever, man?
So one of my favorite things I remember, man. So talking about back in the days, man. So we used to always drink from the water hose, but now these days people are like, oh, you can't drink that because poison, whatever, water bottles, blah, 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 blah.
Before you go on, okay. Right before the freeze, okay, I was rolling up my water hose and I was draining the water out, right? And I let it run for a minute, and this lady walked by, and I was old school, and I was drinking the water. I was fucking thirsty, right? Just fucking. And this lady walks by walking her dog, and she's like, "Sir, that's unsanitary." So what? Like, what do you mean unsanitary? It's water. You know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with it? Is that I'm gonna die? Like people are so scared of simple things like that. Like the water's gonna kill you. It's not poisoned. Okay, it's just because it doesn't taste like it's been filtered 10,000 times through a Brita filter doesn't mean that it's not good for you, right? Like, how do you think all of us kids became 40 plus years old? Because we used to drink shit out of the water hose, and
Exactly,
we had an immune system. And that's why you only get sick once a year instead of my kid to get sick every fucking 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Or every other week. Like, God damn, you ain't got no immune system, bro. Go outside and scrape up your knee and throw some dirt in it, bro.
Eat some dirt.
Yeah, bro. Eat a fucking tree branch. Like, come on, chew on some leaves. Like, come on, man. Like, it's
Fucking mud
crazy.
pie.
Yeah. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean. I just thought about that.
But so no, but yeah, so whenever me same thing, man, especially in the summer, I used to always play baseball, you basically all year round. So in the summer we would play video games here and there, or then we'll be like, all right, we're bored, let's go do some during that time it was what, WWF instead of WWE.
Yep.
So we'll be like, all right, I want to be this person, we'll start wrestling and whatnot. And then we'll get tired and then be like, all right, let's go get from the water hose. Well, who lost the match? So depending on who lost the match was the first person to drink out of the water hose. Because in the summer, exactly. In the summer, when you turned it on, the first person would basically burn the fuck out of their mouth. So I'd be like, nah, man, you lost. So that's one thing that to this day, like damn, I miss that. Like kids these days and like people like you said, like, oh, that's so unsanitary. It's like, why wasn't it unsanitary back in the 90s? Like, what's different now? Like,
yeah, it's just
because we know more,
right?
Like,
And that's what it is, right? People know more, so they think that they are obligated to tell you more. Like, shut the fuck up. I used to drink out of water hose every day as a kid, and look at me,
man.
I'm bigger than you, like, and I look better than you. So you know what I mean? And you're probably 10 years younger than me, so whatever, right? But that's a crazy concept too. Just in that same story, right? Like, back in the days as a kid, you could literally drive. You could ride your bike onto somebody's yard, slam it in their fucking dirt, kick up a bunch of dirt, grab their water hose, drink their water hose, and they'd look at you at the window and just wave. Hey, hope that water's not too hot. Good luck. It's hot out. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't care, bro. Like, community was so different back in those days. And that was kind of what I was talking about earlier, right? Is like, you didn't need phones and you didn't need the text like, hey, Susan, I saw Joey down the street. I just wanted to let you know if he's supposed to be there or not. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day, bro, like, if you saw somebody you knew you were good. Because you'd be like, oh, shit, if, you know, Mr. Smith over there, he saw me, right? And then you go home, and if your parents do ask you where you've been, like, oh, you asked Mr. Smith. I was over by his house. He saw me. That was it. That was as simple as that. It seems like a foreign concept to most people nowadays, but it was really that simple. Like, communities back in the day were real communities. Everybody knew their neighbor. Everybody knew who lived around them. Everybody knew who the creepy old guy was that lived in the corner house that you're supposed to stay away from. Everybody knew who the crazy cat lady was in your neighborhood that she'd yell at you if you fucking mess with her cats. Like, you know, like, you knew which houses to stay away from. You knew which houses were cool, which houses you could stop in, which houses you could knock on the door and you could ask for some snacks and then give you some snacks. There's always a lady that used to just like see kids out playing and she'd bring fucking orange slices out and ice water, and you'd be like, oh my god, you know, it's 115 today in the summer, you know what I mean? And then if you didn't hang out, everybody saw everybody at the pool, because the pools back in those days didn't come in every neighborhood. They came in like every
community, like a big
like
town, the city pool or something like that.
Yeah, you had to go to the public pool, bro, and you'd see half of the people in your city at the pool. You know what I mean? Depending on which side of the neighborhood you lived on. So, so I don't know. Did you guys have any experiences like that, man? Hanging out, being outside all day, shit like that.
You want to go, Danny? You want me to go?
You go first.
All right. So I lived in 3 states growing up: New York, Minnesota, and then Florida. And you know, New York was my youngest state, right? Age. But we always, you know, played outside in the front. We lived in a little neighborhood I vaguely remember, but you know, we're always out front riding our bikes, playing outside, just like Donnie said. You know, we got big trees in the backyard. We had a big backyard, climbing trees, you know, throwing rocks and shit at, you know, hornets' nests, you know, until finally you get your dad to come out there and try and knock it down. And I've got a quick story. Yeah, it was real short. My dad, we had a big hornet's nest in front of our house in New York, and I was playing in the front yard. So he comes out and tries to knock down this hornet with a rock or something, this nest. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a hornet's nest, but it looks like paper mache, like a circle kind of thing. So he tries to throw his thing. He hits it, but all it does is piss off the hornets, right? So they start coming out, and you know, he scoops me up as he's running towards the house to get inside, get away from the hornets, but that's what we did in New York. We played outside.
Hey, that's how
Minnesota,
that kid died in My Girl, bro. I don't know if you knew that, like in that old school movie.
that's an
how
old
that-
movie, so yeah, but that's true. That's true. Minnesota was the same thing, playing outside all the time. It snowed there a lot, so I lived in a little cul-de-sac with townhouses, like down the street. There was just staggered, you got a cul-de-sac full of townhouses.
Yeah.
And in the cul-de-sac, though, when it snowed, they would get the snow plow, pile it all up in the middle. You got a little tower, so we up there digging out tunnels in the pile of
that's
snow.
cool.
It was dope.
awesome.
It was cool. It was a good time. I was actually just talking about that with my mom the other day. But if I wasn't playing outside, I was playing sports. And when I got to Florida is when I kind of grew into my body and started playing a lot more sports and honing in my talent, my athletic ability,
Yeah.
and my brother and sister, they probably don't agree, but I'm the athletic one of the family. So I was always playing sports, whether it be mostly baseball and basketball. My brother's a lot bigger than me, so he played football. And but if it wasn't, like I said, riding the bikes, throwing rocks at stuff, it's playing manhunt. But I mean, tying it with gaming though, when I got to Florida, if we weren't playing sports like in like league or whatever, on the weekends or even after school, we would play basketball pickup games like in somebody's driveway. We get everybody to come over and, you're playing in the driveway like 3-on-3,
Yeah.
things like that. Because you can't play
Yeah.
5-on-5 in a driveway. So I think 4 was like pushing it, but that's go back to drinking out of the water hose. You play a game after the game, you go to the water hose, you drink, you hydrate, and you get ready for playing again,
Yeah, bro.
But then if we do that during the day, and then before we all go home to shower, eat, whatever, it's like, hey, we're going to this person's house to go play, pull all-nighters, playing Halo LAN parties, things like that, So
Nice.
that's, my story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Daniel? What did you used to do other than gaming when you were a kid?
Dude,
growing up?
So
Like,
I give
used to
myself
build
props.
Video games. No, I'm
I
just
guess I give myself props, man. I'm not athletic, or I don't want to say athletic, but I'm not into sports like y'all.
Yeah.
But I do give myself props because I did tell my dad, like, hey, let me try out baseball. I hated it. I tried out basketball. I tried basketball. I didn't like it. But I tried it though, right? Like
That's nothing wrong with that,
nobody pushed me to it. I just thought like, yo, maybe I should try it. Maybe I'll like it. So it didn't work out. But besides that, pretty much, so the way our days would start, or my day would pretty much end, was after school. Like all my buddies from school, we would just, for some reason, we would end up in the same block, whether it was like on the next street or the street before or whatever. So right after school, and we would all have bikes. So we'd all pretty much just get together and just like pretty much bullshit. Like when we weren't playing video games, because we didn't play video games all the time. Sometimes we just play. I remember one of my buddy's house had a pool table, and we'd actually play pool table, and we'd actually also play cards like I don't know, like goldfish and shit like that. Like it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
yeah, man, and yeah, like we'd go to like the little supermarket down the street and stuff. Like those are the type of stuff that we'd go do. Like, hey, let's go hit up the shop or whatever. And I don't know, just shoot the shit. We'd just be at our crib, talk about how our day went and stuff, and that's pretty much it.
I do want to say, and I'm a victim of my own ignorance, right? But when I was a kid and growing up, man, if you played video games and you told people you were a gamer, you were a fucking nerd, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now
100%. 100%.
Okay. So let me say that by saying this, right?
Yeah.
It's insanely crazy how the world has kind of flipped around. Not really flipped around, because if you're an athlete now and you make money, like, oh, that's fucking dope, right? But gamers are making the same kind of money, if not more, right? Like, so who's the fucking nerd now? You know, and I'm like, oh shit. You know what I mean? So I feel, I feel bad. So I apologize to anybody I called a gamer nerd back in the day, because I didn't play games because I thought
You see that, Mom?
They just crossed you off their list, Donnie.
Right.
You finally apologized.
I apologize to anybody that I ever disrespected about gaming. Okay, I just didn't understand. Right now, I understand, and it makes perfect sense. And I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome because I think things like that. Okay, so I've played sports my whole life. I've been a sports fan my whole life. But I'll give you one back. As a kid, I was a nerd in a sense that I loved fucking watching wrestling. My whole family watched wrestling, right? Like I grew up, like my grandmother was big into like old school WWF wrestling. My dad still watches wrestling. I still watch wrestling to this day now, but I don't watch it like I remember growing up. It was like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, wrestling on TV, right? And I would watch that shit. I'd be into that shit, bro. I used to want to be a professional wrestler, all this dumb shit, right? I don't do it like that now, but I watch all the pay-per-views because it still keeps me into it, because it's kind of like a childhood memory that I get to relive or whatever. But yeah, man, like that was my nerdy thing as a kid. Like I watch wrestling, and I wasn't afraid to tell people about it, and they would say like, Donnie, dude, really, like you play sports, like you watch wrestling, like you're a WWE fan, you're like Hulk Hogan and shit. And I'm like, yeah, fight me about it, like I dare you. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. You know what I mean? That's the thing that I got to share with my family, and it made it an enjoyable experience. So yeah, man. So that's cool, bro. And then, like I said, what I was getting into, sorry. See, I get sidetracked. I think it's cool in the aspect that kids that used to get a bad rep for playing video games and not playing sports are now capitalizing on that and making a shit ton of money, right? Like T-Pain is a prime example, and he'll tell you, he talks about it all. If you guys will follow him, he talks about it all the time in his on his Twitch streams. He makes almost 100 times more streaming on Twitch than he ever did making records.
Yeah,
that's wild.
I saw that.
Yeah, like that's crazy. He's like, bro, I stopped making music regularly and started streaming my life, just regular day-to-day shit, and I make so much more money than I've ever made in the music industry. And I'm just like, what? Like that's crazy, right? But it also plays into the change, right? The socialism change of America. It's like there's no more interpersonal relationships. Everybody just watches everybody online. People are so captivated by reality TV. Like, oh, what's gonna happen next? Because people
drama.
Yeah, but Americans, like by trade, for the most part, they like to watch people's downfall, right? They like to watch people suffer for whatever reason. That's why these shows are so fucking popular, like Survivor and shit. Like, like you go to work and you hear people talk about Survivor. Like, did you see Johnny last night? He cried like a bitch because he couldn't fucking start that fire. Like, why are you making fun of that? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
fucking Johnny.
You know what I mean? Like, think about it in depth, like why you're laughing at somebody's, lack of ability. Because why? Because they weren't taught how to survive, right? Like, if the grid goes down tomorrow, 99% of America population is wiped off the earth within 3 months. I promise you that, bro. Because people rely so heavily on the screen in front of them or in their pocket that they don't know how to manage life, right? Like YouTube is the modern day encyclopedia. And for those of you that don't know what an encyclopedia is the infomercial between every TV show on Friday night that you could buy the whole set and you would learn about the rest of the world, right? Like you could look up, encyclopedia was like a hard copy version of Google, right? Like, how do you do this? You look it up in Encyclopedia Britannica. There was like 14 editions. Well, not me, but my parents always had encyclopedias in the house. Like that was the thing. You'd have a bookshelf and then you'd have all 14 fucking books of the different shit.
I remember that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like people don't even know about that kind of shit no more. Right. Like I think book culture is finally becoming popular again, but
it is.
Yeah. Like it's a thing now. Right. But like for a long time, like people didn't even talk about books. You know what I mean? Like books were where everybody learned everything from. So since we talked about gaming and where it started, right? I want to hear your thoughts on where you think gaming as a whole is going. Like realistically, not like, oh, fucking they're gonna put an implant in your brain and you can be able to play video games while you're walking down the street. Like not no stupid fucking, iRobot movie shit. Like real life, realistic progression, or what you would like to see in the near future with gaming, right? Like with updated technology in PC gaming, consoles. What do you think would be cool to see? Or as far as any of that goes. So I'll let our resident gamer expert kick this one off, Danny.
So are you talking about like the aspect of like virtual reality?
I mean, it could be that, like, if that's what you think, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and that's one thing we didn't talk about, right? There's a couple of like virtual reality things becoming popular. So yeah, that could be that. I mean, just
Yeah.
you in your own head, like, what do you think gaming is evolving into over the next couple of years?
Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
don't know. I think honestly, I'm not sure. Like, because still, even to this day, I feel like I want to say virtual reality, but I feel like virtual reality is still sort of like a gimmick. It's not. It's not something that it's. I don't think it's something that's very 100% possible in the gaming world. I was watching a video from Stone Mountain, and he was playing a battle royale. He was playing an extraction shooter, sort of what like Delta Force is, but it was a virtual reality game. And there's just so much that doesn't make sense, and
Yeah.
it's just the controls. Like the controls for his hands or whatever, like it just wasn't making sense. And I guess pretty much what I'm getting at is I don't think virtual reality is going to be a thing. I think we are still going to game with controller or keyboard and obviously a monitor.
Okay.
So I think that's the road that we're still going to take. I think
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I think that's what we might in the next 5 years. I think that's still going to be the reality of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that to an extent for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think,
me,
Jose or Brian? Yeah,
I mean, me personally, I mean, I know where it's a gaming podcast and whatnot, but I personally don't really care where it's gonna go.
That's fair.
I do it as a hobby to play with the boys, hang out, and it's something that I'm sure I'll continue to do for who knows how long, at least until my son's old enough to play and I teach him how to play, and then he kind of just takes the reins and we'll play together at some point, I'm sure, because it's just like the evolution of like the gaming aspect. Like you see a lot of parents playing, or fathers, mothers, whatever, playing with their sons, daughters, whatever. It's just something to do together to bond, whether. So that's just my like outtake on it. Like that's really all I care about.
Yeah.
It's just an outlet for me to hang out with my friends and my son at some point.
Right on, man. Right on. What about you, Jose? I see you nodding your head over there, like you got some. So you're an IT guy, right, by trade?
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like you have different kind of. You probably can come to the table with a little bit of different insight.
So I can definitely agree with Daniel when it comes to the virtual reality. We're not there yet. Just like AI, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. AI, yes, it's definitely evolved. Even from like 2 years ago, last year, it's evolved a shitload. But even then, like you have to be very specific with AI with what you want, because I can easily go to AI right now and be like, hey, make me a thumbnail of a monkey. It'll make it. But like if I want a monkey jumping out of a plane or whatever, I have to like legitimately type a monkey jumping out of a plane. I want the plane being this color and blah 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 and so forth and so forth.
Right.
So I think virtual reality is the same way. So like Daniel says, I've seen the video too. It just doesn't make sense. Like they don't have the concept. Like they're nearly there, but I don't see that happening within the next five maybe 10 years. I don't see that happening still yet. Like, yeah, there's certain businesses even like around here where I live, they have like the whole virtual reality, like where you go in there and suit up and play and whatnot. So and it's pretty cool. But I don't think it's there yet. it's there's still some certain things that are missing. What I think is probably going to end up happening, and where I can definitely see happening like within a year or so, is consoles just getting rid of disc, which is how we were talking about GameStop. I feel like a lot of companies that sell actual hard copies are going to be no more. It's going to be all just digital. Like no more consoles with a disc. It's going to be all you just buy a console that's just pure digital. Hell, it'd be nice if they give you more memory since you're going to be downloading more fucking games.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd
So
like to see for sure.
so I think that's where I see happening within the next 2 years of that is consoles are going to just be completely just all digital. Like no more like back in the days. Hey man, have you played this game? No. Hey, I'm gonna let you borrow the game. Here you go. Like that's not going to be a thing anymore.
It's gonna be like the vinyl records now, you know, kind of
Yeah,
obsolete.
dude.
It's more like vintage, you know.
Yeah,
It's like a
Yeah.
collector's item now. That's what I'm sure
exactly.
discs will
Yeah.
come out to be, you know, like kind of like
Yeah.
baseball cards, right? It's,
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think you're right. No, absolutely. And that's kind of what I was getting at too. Like, you know, and I like that Daniel touched on the virtual reality thing because that's kind of like that's the current niche, right? The current niche is people trying to figure out this whole virtual reality thing, right? And that's I don't know if that's a progression for gaming or if that's a progression for productivity, kind of like AI, right?
Yeah.
AI is like sometimes productivity, sometimes can be gaming, whatever, right? For me though, like being a child of where gaming came from and seeing the different, you know, aspects of it over the years, right? And noticing like with the difference in TVs, right? The difference in consoles, the difference in graphics, right? Even the difference in computers. Like I had a computer when I was a kid, bro, and it had a fucking big ass thing of ream of paper that you load in, and it had those little dot things on the side that would track it through the paper, and you had to rip those things apart, you know. And it was terrible. It was loud. The motherfucker shook the whole house when it was printing, bro. It was fucking ridiculous, right? But now people don't even use printers no more. You know what I mean? Like I can digitally scan a document to you, and you don't even have to print it out. You can just load it straight into a file on your email and send it wherever you need to go, right? For me, I'm going to take the other side of it. I'm going to say in the next 5 years, I'm curious to see where it stops. Okay. And what I mean by that is, I have a monitor now that has a 240 hertz refresh rate or whatever. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like there's TVs coming out now that are 8K. Okay. I still have a 2K TV in my living room and it fucking has crystal clear picture, right? So at what point does technology kind of like plateau out? Like what are we trying to obtain with technology? Does that make sense? Right? Like, do I need a monitor that makes it look like you're sitting right next to me instead of you're sitting on a screen? You know what I mean? Like, does it look good for movies? Absolutely. But that's another thing that's a dying thing, right? Like movie theaters are getting less and less occupancy. Like they're getting less and less customers. You know what I mean? Because people just don't go out anymore.
probably because it's also more expensive now.
Yeah, and they're upping the prices, right, to offset the amount of people that don't show up. Because now, and this has happened. I love to go to the movies because I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, right? Going to the movies and paying $3 for a movie ticket and $1 for popcorn and 50 cents for a soda was the shit back in the day. And that was what you did on a Friday night when a new movie was coming out. I go to the movie theater now and I get mad, but I don't get mad till after the fact. But I always know that it's coming. Okay. I love to take my kids to the movies because they enjoy it. It's a fun experience for me and the kids to do. And it's kind of like our thing that we do like once or twice a month, every month. We make sure we pick a movie and we go have, you know, popcorn and all the snacks, and we sit down and we hang out in the movie theater and we watch a movie on a big giant screen, right? The problem with it is I take them to the movie theater on a Monday, right? And then next Saturday, the shit's loaded up on every fucking streaming app that I already pay for every month. Right? Like it comes out on Prime Video for free. It comes out on Netflix to watch. It comes out on fucking Paramount to watch. It's just like, what's the point? You know, and I feel like the problem with our own society is obsolescence, right? Is like we strive to obsolete what we have. It's always like, how can we make this better to get rid of this version? You know, like, why do you need to update the iPhone or the Android operating system every fucking 2 weeks? Why is there an update every 2 weeks? with new improvements, blah blah blah. Like we're constantly striving to improve things that we don't get enough time to enjoy what we have, is what I'm getting at. Consoles back in the day, when it was just consoles and there was no such thing really as like PC gaming, bro, I had a Nintendo for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? I had a PS4 for 5 years, right? Like you don't see that anymore, right? PS2 comes out, and you know, like then, or no, PS5, I mean, comes out, and then the next version of the PS5 comes out the next year, and then the better version of the PS5 comes out the next year, and then they talk about a whole new console, a whole new gaming concept, a whole new this, a whole new that. I just feel like, you know, there's they don't take the time anymore to just let people enjoy what they have, and I think PC gaming kind of does that in a sense, but at the same sense, right? It's all the other stuff around it. Like monitors are constantly getting better, constantly getting upgraded, but the games aren't. So why are people spending money on a better monitor when it doesn't make any difference because your game can't support your monitor, right? It should be the other way around. Your monitor has to support your game, right? If your frame rate for your TV is only 240 hertz and your game shoots at 800, just as an example, like what does it matter? It doesn't, because you don't have an 800 fucking refresh rate monitor, so you're not going to be able to tell the difference. So I think for me, it's just, you know, where does not really where it stops, because I don't think it'll ever stop, right? Everybody's always trying to improve, but I think hopefully over the next couple of years, I would like to see things slow down a little bit and focus on what we have and just make those better instead of upgrades, right? As opposed to, you know, trying to strive for the next best thing. And I think that's always the problem. So anyways, man, that's my rant on that. I come from a very old head visionary on that kind of thing. And, you know, it comes off a little different, but I'm not I'm not scared by like AI or anything like that. But I mean, I've seen movies in the 90s about AI taking over the world, and it's 2025 and AI is a real thing now. You know what I mean? So there's just that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything, but but yeah, man. Anybody got any closing thoughts?
No, man.
No.
This guy, we're going strong.
Yeah.
So let's just keep going.
It's cool. Like just like Donnie said,
Speaking
go ahead.
speaking on the evolution of gaming and stuff, like I think what I'm mostly looking forward to is what the future brings. So Donnie, I know you want it to slow down, man, but with how technology is going, I don't think it's gonna slow down.
I don't think it will.
You're right.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just, I guess in a sense, I'm kind of, I shouldn't say scared, but I'm worried. In the aspect of, like, let's say cost per upgrade. Okay, let's just call it that, right? Like, I'm definitely curious to see how better technology gets, right? Like, let's just be real, like, because that's cool, right? You know, fuck, cars drive themselves nowadays, bro. In the 90s, you'd never think that was a thing, right? The most advantageous thought process of vehicles in the world in the 90s was watching the Jetsons fly around in little fucking flying cars. And you know, you never thought that would be a thing one day, but every day that we get closer and closer and move forward, like that becomes a reality because cars drive themselves nowadays. You know what I mean? Like full on drive themselves, and they're electric. Who the fuck would have thought you'd be driving an electric car, right? Like,
it's crazy.
I just think, I guess I should probably clarify, and I probably should have done a better job at that. But I think the problem with the speed of progression with technology is it doesn't always match up to the cost of the progression, right? Because as things get better, things get more expensive, right? But people get paid less and less every year. Things cost more and more every year. Inflation goes up. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I think that's kind of what I mean by plateau, right? I think if things even out a little bit and let things catch up to each other, I think it would be way better, right? Because it's kind of like that thing in the 90s, you know, or even like, you know, the early 2000s where you, like you said, you go to your buddy's house because he had a console and you didn't, right? Like, how do you keep up with the progression of technology? I think that's the challenge, right? Is that part of it. So, but I agree with you, Danny. Like, I'm curious to see where things will go, because I think there's so much potential out there, and people are so innovative. Like, that's a real thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I think I completely agree with you. That's where the problem is the plateau where I don't think we're getting paid enough for the product that we're paying for. But I do believe it's cheaper. So when I first bought my terabyte, my first SSD for my PlayStation, that shit was $200 for 1 terabyte of SSD. Right.
That's a great example.
Now,
actually, yeah.
now, dude, I just bought a 2 terabyte, faster writing speed and faster reading speed, and that shit was $98
Yeah,
for a
and
2 terabyte.
that's a great
You know what I
point,
mean?
and I'm glad you pointed that out because you're absolutely
Yeah.
correct. Because in let me see, 2008, 2009, I bought my first 1 terabyte portable hard drive to take to my second deployment in Afghanistan because we were going to some shitty places and I needed some porn. So, fucking I loaded on. Let's be real. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Okay. I don't care what anybody says. That's what it was back in those days. And that shit cost me like $220 for a fucking portable brick that was like, bigger than my phone. Okay.
Yeah.
And now me and Brian, like within like the last year, upgraded our storage on our computers. And Brian put me on to this fucking, hard drive that you can just plug in. And I think it cost like $40 and it was fucking 2 terabytes. And I was like, what?
Yep.
2 terabytes for $40? So that part I agree with, right? Like that's cool because those things are getting better, but those are the things that are on plateau because if you think about it, at the end of the day, who is buying those things now? Not everybody, just certain people.
No.
Right. So it progresses into a thing that you think everybody's going to need. So it costs a lot of money. And then when they realize like, only people who, use computers every day and just like that are using them. So we got to drop the cost, so I get that for sure. But yeah, that's a great point, man. I agree with that. So you're right. It's subjective as far as like, depending on
subjective.
Depending on what it applies to. So that makes a lot of sense. Because now, right, kind of like what Brian did, I would probably spend more money now on a camera, not me personally, but in general, I'd spend more money on a good quality camera to stream on than I would, a new, I don't know, keyboard or a new mouse or whatever, right? Like, So I think that was great. That was another good, fun episode. A lot of things to talk about, a lot more to learn about everybody, man. I think that's what the goal is. Every week, is as we talk, just kind of like learn about lives, like our lives that we don't necessarily talk about or share on a regular basis, and then progress. It was good to touch on the gaming stuff, you know what I mean? Because I'm not very big. I am now. I wasn't very big into gaming, so to learn, all the different insights about gaming was cool, man. And as always, I appreciate you guys. I'm glad we're doing this and. Hey, 2 weeks strong. You know what I'm saying? We keep the momentum going, man. Episode 2. So let's close this thing out, man. It was a great episode again. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us for the second episode of Gaming Vets Unplugged. It was a great time. We talked about a lot of good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please stay tuned for the next one. Uploads are going to be on Mondays, and we're going to try to do this every week as long as we get viewers. So
like and subscribe.
Yeah, like, subscribe, tell a friend, share it, play it on your car ride to work while you're drinking your coffee. We're on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube. Come holler at us and join us. Thanks for hanging out. See you on the next one.